what is up, everybody? This is Midnight Brands coming to you on Thursday night for prep analysis on a sad Friday. Why might it be a sad Friday, you ask? Well, if you like the markets, if you like being involved with all the different fun financial stuff, then after Friday it gets kind of boring. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully you're going out and spending time with friends and family and doing other things, but you know, sometimes it could be thought of as a sad Friday, because what are you going to do on that Saturday and Sunday? In any event, we will go ahead and get things kicked off today and go through. There's a lot of things really more on the overall side today. There's only a handful of things really in my mind in the breadth side. Definitely some decent ones in the breadth side, but not as big as there have been the last handful of days. There is also something that's been interesting looking at over the last little bit on the ES, which is the futures side, and we'll highlight that too. I know some of you love this part. I am not a financial analyst. We are not financial advisors. We, us, any of y'all should know that none of us here have anything to do with any of those kind of things. So nothing we say or do is any kind of buy or sell recommendations. We are not trying to guide you into anything, just trying to share educational thoughts and analysis about what and how we see things operating today in the market. And with that fun stuff, we will move on into the analysis, and we'll begin with XLV. XLV is the healthcare sector spider that tracks most things related to healthcare. And it's got a nice zone there set up for tomorrow at the highs. Was also noticing in some review stuff earlier that it's got a potential ABCD type of pattern set up here where A, B equals C to D. And this would be a really kind of big move. I mean, XLV doesn't move like this, but this has been a 3-day type of thing, right? Where this started back on the 12th, came through and finished up here the other day on the 15th, and then popped back up. So I mean, this could be out, a several day type of thing. And in any event, the bigger zone for XLV is going to be up here at the highs. It's also interesting, again, these pink, yellow, and green dots are different areas based upon where we're looking at this indicator and what and how market makers are trying to keep things in curves. And so quite interesting to me that this the green and yellow are proving a little bit more fruitful in what and how we see these. Still in the early stages of the analysis for this indicator, but that's super interesting to me where these two line up, and then kind of where these first tier for those line up on the lower end. Moving down next into this breadth review is XBI. XBI is that biotech ETF, has a bigger impact, really more on the RTY side, with a lot of the small caps and stuff that live in this one. XBI has one zone, and it's set for tomorrow, and it's up at that 87.63 to 87.31. You can see, to me, what's interesting is, I mean, it's got that 200-day SMA in there and just a touch above it, right? We've got this weekly anchored VWAP in there from just a couple weeks ago back. I think it was like August 12th is where this weekly anchored VWAP comes from. So a lot of times you'll hear me mention swing anchored VWAP. When swings are typically at a 5 or 30-minute level, attach some number of days back on the chart. Dailies are just that. They are dailies. But at some point, these swings and daily anchored VWAPs get violated. They don't, they're not really proving anything. You can see this daily anchor VWAP, it held kind of where things sat, to the tick here on this day and this day, and kind of proved as support. And so the way we treat these is, after they get violated some number of times and they look like they're not doing anything, toss them. Don't keep evidence on your chart that's adding no value. If I get a transfer trend line in there and it's been violated, get rid of it. It's just adding noise to your analysis. And so, point being, at some point a daily anchored VWAP may not prove valid anymore. Get rid of it and see if it holds with the weekly anchored VWAP, and go that path. So off the soapbox rant there, and moving on to Microsoft. Microsoft's got one level in it, and speaking of which, this is why I say you got to clean up stuff. You can see in this one I didn't clean up all of my anchored VWAPs in here, and it kind of makes it ugly, doesn't it, right? So get rid of some of this crap in here that's no longer valid, no longer is proving kind of anything that's of use, and just mudding up your chart. So take this actually and drag it all the way over to show where that actually is. And this is one that I would argue that it's probably not even a good daily anchored VWAP anymore. Flip that over and take a look at it on a weekly time schedule. The same thing with these, and we'll clean that up next time. We don't tend to look at Microsoft, and it doesn't normally come up in this RoyalFlush zone scoring. So in any event, I will highlight the bigger zone for tomorrow for Microsoft is going to be up here at the highs. I know it's at the highs because oranges are referencing kind of the middle, or like a daily pivot or something along those lines people might talk about and use, or trend strengths, reference points. And so I know that orange being there in the middle tells me that. And this bigger zone was super interesting to me on this one with Microsoft. That 250.02 to 248.95 level is got the first kind of deviation of the curves in there. And so that would be very interesting to me. If we break above this, then I definitely would, in my mind, think we go and take out this gap fill from a few days ago and collect the ADRs up here at this level. Today was pretty big in terms of a move, though. It was almost $7.50, which is definitely outside of the norm of what and how Microsoft generally trades. We can see it did get up into some of the extremes here towards the end of the day, so that could even have been a clue for you when you made that last kind of push down towards the end of the day. You know, hey, we're getting up into the extremes and ADRs. Maybe that was your spot to go ahead and try a long. And definitely had another spot here earlier in the day. So, interesting nonetheless on Microsoft. I'm going to skip the next couple of these, and actually we're going to go down. Actually, we'll skip IWM and we'll look at ARC, one of those ARC funds. And ARC had one zone of interest in it, which is at the 43.96 to 43.77 level. And I was noting earlier in some other analysis that I was doing and looking at, I mean, it also has a potential for this kind of setup, and its bigger zone is right here, and it's got that 20-day EMA in there and a swing AV WAP, and maybe I mean, to me this would be absolutely crazy that we could even think about something like this. But I mean, ARC was up today. I mean, a lot of it was based upon Roku and how it was driving the trend, but that takes it right into a gap fill, so that could be super interesting in what happens on that one. We'll flip next and look at energy, given how energy's continued to be all over the place, which has been a nice trader. I mean, CL was really kind of sweet today. If you were prepared for the right entries and you were patient and waiting for them and took action and pounced when they were there, it was super good trader on CL for sure. And so XLE tomorrow, its bigger zone is going to be down here at the lows, at the fuller ADRs, just below the 50-day EMA, and just below a supply and demand zone. So you can see that over here on the daily. It should prove very interesting if we decide to do that. Although CL has been trading up tonight, took a bit of a dive after towards the end of the day with the rest of crude and everything else, and definitely took a big drop on those FedEx pre-announced earnings. Came all the way down to 83.97. It's up now. You know, hell, it's up 100 some ticks to 84.91. So it's making some good progress on kind of restoring that trend. So we'll have to see how that performs. The last one that we'll look at here in the breadth is going to be SPY. And SPY has one zone in it for tomorrow at that 394.87 to 394.17. And this is one that, you know, to me this was should be a warning shot, right? Look, it held and started to form this transfer trend line back on those June lows, and it's held it again there in July, held it and bounced, you know, kind of dipped below late August, early September, and then held again. tried to hold the a couple days ago, broke through yesterday, closed above, and it just, it took it out today. So definitely want to be cautious about it. You can see tomorrow, it is up here at the highs. You got a swing AV WAP, and it's the top edge of a supply and demand zone there. So definitely want to be cautious of for SPY, watching and seeing how that plays out in that particular set. With that, we'll pause for one quick second here. We're going to get things set up to flip over to the overall breadth, and unlike last night, we will make sure that we flip it back over to the camera. Brian, Midnight Brands, what are you doing? And so with that, we'll get started into this side. And first one up is actually TMUS. And TMUS has been in here a couple of times over the last week. And this zone here is actually the same one that was in the analysis for yesterday. And it came up, it couldn't get above there. And it had a pretty good size drop from that one here earlier today. So interesting one on that TMUS at the 142.04 to 141.37 mark on that TMUS one. It's also interesting to note the other day, on the 13th, it came down and dipped right into that buy side symmetrical extreme and took a big size bounce off of that. We saw here, right? So yesterday was a $3 move off of coming into that buy side symmetrical extreme. Next down on the list was Canadian Solar, CSIQ. CSIQ has two zones in its mix for tomorrow. It's got the first one up here with the 20-day EMA, swing anchor VWAP, gap fill. You got a little bit of structure you can see here if you look left, and kind of what and how this has been playing in here. And of course, that supply and demand, which drives some of that. And then down here at the lows, you also have some wicks and whatnot here in this past week, and then you got the 50-day EMA in there as well. So two kind of nicer setups in there on CSIQ. Next on our list was BMY, Bravo Michael Yankee, and it also had two zones in here. And actually realized it had three. We went through and ran a small change to the supply and demand zone finder, and it moved a couple pieces around and actually detected and picked up a third one when it classified this area here also as a starting point for a supply and demand. And so the two zones originally were at that 73.62 to 73.40, which is getting into, again, also a supply and demand. And then you have the next one down, which is getting the 50-day gap fill. So pretty nice one there. And then all the way down at the lows, right, is where you've got a daily anchored VWAP, and then you have a full ADRs down at that level. So pretty good zones on that one. Next on the list was S&P Global Inc. And in particular, when I was flipping through these earlier, you notice two possibilities on the daily chart here. It's really tough. Nobody knows what and how that one's going to play out, right? The point is to come prepared and take what the market gives you and be smart about it. So S&P Global Inc. has the one big zone way up here at the highs. This thing's trading $6-7 a day, so not unheard of. And yesterday it traded almost $12, so not surprising that bigger zone is a little bit ways up there. The other part, if you look on the daily, is you can see green being an ABCD possible trend. You got a transfer trend line here, and it just completes nicely. But you also have this possibility, right? This kind of a measured move down, and then a measured move. So you could come all the way down into this area here at the 324 mark, it looks like, which puts you around a gap fill, and then just below that's a supply and demand too. So definitely one you want to keep an eye on and see how that one plays out. I have a feeling that it's going to end up showing up here over the next little bit. Next on the list was PYPL, and I thought this was interesting because there's some conversations earlier today about Intel and getting lost inside, and it's been in a buy side symmetrical extreme forever. Symmetrical extremes, how far away is something from its 20-day, 50-day moving average type of view. And man, PayPal was the death of a lot of folks thinking it was going to rebound. You got some bounces in here. I mean, that's not bad, but what'd you go, 194 to 130? I mean, so that's a pretty damn good bounce, but it just, everybody kept trying to catch the knife, and this guy included, and it was definitely wasn't a widowmaker, but definitely did not help things. And so in any event, PayPal's zone for tomorrow is going to be closer down to the lows. We got the 20-day, you've got a supply and demand, you've got a gap fill, daily anchor VWAP, so pretty decent setup in there on that PayPal one. Again, 94.95 to 94.44. I would probably skip this one. There's going to be some structure and stuff in here. There's probably some other kind of indicator pieces, but candidly, if we fail this, I would probably just wait and watch towards this bottom side of one of these two zones. None of that's buy and sell recommendations. Of course we know that, because we've listened to the other 20-some videos seemingly that we've done here at this point. With that, I'm going to turn the music up just a touch here. We're going to get into DraftKings, not Donkey Kong, like a lot of people teased about when it first came out IPO'd with DKNG. But DraftKings tomorrow's got a nice little zone in there. There's also been some news recently. I don't remember the extent of it. It was with Disney, talking about ESPN, and, sports betting, etc. And so interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out. It's become a sector trend with some of the other ones out there, tickers and whatnot. Have to go through the memory banks to dig up a couple of those ones that I know we've traded in the past that deal with betting. One was like SL something or another. I forget the rest of them. And so in any event, its zone here is going to be, I'd say it's probably down in like one of the pivots type of setup, and you got 200-day SMA in there, a swing AV WAP right in that kind of nice setup there for DraftKings at 1860, 1853. And last, we're going to close off with Chubb. And then there's one other chart that I was going to pull up. I just took a screenshot of it because I don't have it in my charts that are loaded here in this NinjaTrader workspace. And so Chubb, over in that financial kind of insurance area and whatnot, has one zone, and it's mixed for tomorrow at the 194 to 193.70. Decent ADR kind of guy, $3 give or take each day. So if you're prepared for these areas, and I want to say Chubb was even in the mix yesterday. Scroll back up here. Maybe it wasn't yesterday, maybe it was another day this week that this same zone was in there for Chubb, because the 20-day and 50-day were just right on top of each other. So you can see, it came up here today a couple of times, and that's a really kind of nice move down. Even had a little bit of a pop here to get a chance to come back in and grab kind of a nice $2 move down. So that is Chubb CB on that point, and I'm gonna pop this one up here. I was noticing, and nothing says this is gonna happen, this is gonna play out, but was noticing this earlier today and commenting with some other folks that I talked to. This is the ES, the futures chart, and notice down there's definitely been a transfer trend line from the highs. It actually kind of dates back, if you think about it, right? We had the first kind of major swoon back in kind of the September time frame in 21 there. And so you look at that, that's kind of been the downtrend piece. You got a transfer trend line, but the bigger one I was pointing out was we may be setting up for this kind of an ABCD measured move down, where we go back and we tag this lower edge of the transfer trend line again. We tagged it earlier, and maybe we're going back to try to attack it again. Just have to see. It's obviously traded down quite a bit here after hours, again on that FedEx pre-release. So it's going to be interesting here over the next couple weeks. I have a feeling VIX has been really calm and steady, which is also kind of interesting. You know, even just my limited time of actively trading and paying attention to this stuff. So, anywho, hope this helps. We'll see. I've been thinking about and talking about trying to do like a tips and tricks or something else. May also even talk reference this in our video thing. We use Apex Trading. Definitely blown way too many evaluation accounts. But we've been using them and you know, talked to a bunch of other people that have used them. There's a guy also on YouTube, the Canadian Futures Trader or something. So if you want to learn more about that or the tips and tricks on Ninja and things like that, just let us know, and we'll be happy to generate some content around those. So hope everybody has a good Friday, enjoys the weekend, and we will catch you again on Sunday. Later, and catch ya. Bye now.